Hey everybody, Kelly Sue with Cleopatra Art Studios here, and we're going to do some shading on our pumpkins from our art kits. So the pumpkin spice latte one, for example, is what we're going to do. We also did some shading on our Hello Fall sign, and I'm trying to figure out if you guys are upside down or not. It is. Okay, so let's go. We can do ready. I'm trying to find my little button right over here. Magic button on the wall. Is it this one? And then this one. There we go. Okay. So we have some shading off to the side here. And then we have some shading on our pumpkin for the pumpkin and crow that also came in our adult biggie box. But specifically, we're going to work on the shading for the pumpkin spice latte. I want to give you a couple different options to make that happen. So hey everybody, it's been a really crazy week here. Let me just turn that down. Let me just write hi and giddy up. And if I don't get to your question today, I will come back to it. So basically, I've done some shading on here. I just want to show you a couple different ways how you can do that. And I have the components already with a base coat on. You can put as many base coats as you want. So my favorite orange is a medium hue, a cadmium orange, but it is a kind of bright, so I do stick some copper in it just to dull it down a little bit, make it a little bit more earthy. And for this purpose, you would give it a couple coats. So we're gonna do a couple options. One with an angle brush. It's a flat brush. It has the bristles cut at an angle, and some sponges that are just cut into little pieces. And I'm definitely gonna have to zoom in a little bit. Okay, so it's super cute. I'm going to show you a couple different techniques. If you have a wet wipe, grab a wet wipe. If you don't, grab that paper towel from that beautiful man, the Bounty dude, or a shop towel. You can get it a little wet if you wanted to. And then I'm going to come in with just a little bit of paint on that, and I'm going to give my cinnamon sticks just a stain. That way you can still see the little cutouts, the little engraving. Now this is the back piece, just to give it a little stability. I'm gonna pop it aside. I know I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna stain that one more time. I would definitely recommend you paint your components one more time, but we don't need to sit here and watch me have paint dry at all. So I just wanna go ahead and show you some of the techniques. I also have a red, you can use Azerian red from Deco Art, but what I like to do is just deepen up a really nice cad red that I have. I like to make my own paints, but basically find what works for you. Oh, also, where's my sign? So pumpkin spice, so you can paint it and you can try to dig out all of the extra paint out of the engraving, but really what you want to do is really thin, stainy layers. So on mine, I did really thin copper, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do this stainy with the wet wipe or paper towel trick. So you can kind of see it's been painted, it's been stained, paint stained, but it still keeps that beautiful, I went ahead and wrote something there, that beautiful lettering. You don't want to use full-fledged paint on this. You'll just clog up the pores. It's just, the skin can't take it. But while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a little black. You can pre-mix, I'm lazy. You know that. A little black. I'm just going to stain these up just a little darker. You can have a go at it 4 or 5 times, one little stain at a time. Little rub-a-dub-dub. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the way this goes together is, oops, wrong. This piece will go here. The luscious whipped cream will go on top. The heart, and then you can tie on or just glue on if you're not handy with a bow. And you can argue that I am. The pumpkin spice sign. So I'm just gonna help you with some shading. I didn't do any inside shading necessarily on my original, but I wanted to give you some options. I just painted it a couple times with cream and pulled out with a toothpick before it dried those lines. But if you do want to shade, we're going to go ahead and do that with a slightly damp angle brush. I like to get my pieces to a nice point. And then I do need to mix up just a smidge of dark brown. So I have a burnt sienna. I'm going to add some black to it. And we'll see if the dogs behave today. Sydney had her baby. I have a house full of people, and that means a house full of dogs. So I'm going to water down just a little bit that paint, and I don't want much on my paintbrush. This might be too much. All I'm going to do is with the tip of my angle brush is go in there and follow the line. I'm just using the tip. Now, if you feel like you have too much paint on there, it's too heavy, what you can do is either take the same brush, which I don't like to do because then I'm not able to go right back to use it, or a different brush or a Q-tip and have it be wet. Okay, this is right from the manufacturer. Have it be a little wet, and before it dries, go in. I'm gonna try to pick some off. You're just softening the line. You might have to do this a couple times. It could smear a little bit, but that looks pretty good. So you have the choice of, so I like to give you choices. You have the choice of just scooping out the extra paint with a toothpick or doing a little shading. Now, while I still have my angle brush and it's still loaded with that dark brown, you can hit the sides. I feel like that's way too much. I think it needs a little bit more water. You'll get the trick. I want you to try this on at least a piece of scrap wood until you figure it out. And you're just giving the edge a little stain. I'm going to show you. It's a little deeper, a little darker on this side. I had more paint on my. I should have silenced my phone first. My apologies. And that's just one way you can do things, just to give it a little bit more awesomeness, just a little awesomeness. Then I did take a skinny paintbrush and put a little sweep of white around, kind of thick and chunky, because that's how I like to paint. You can kind of see I'm a thick and chunky kind of girl. And some gold. I want to let it dry. I want to see what I get, but I'm thinking it's going to be fantastic. Thumbs up if you like, or not. That's fine too. Go ahead and give your stick another coat or two until you're happy, the cinnamon sticks. And then I do want to show you another way. If you don't have an angle brush, honestly, if you just pick up a pack of paintbrush, like the assorted paintbrushes for $5 or $6 from Walmart, from Michael's, from Amazon, you're gonna get an angle brush, or you can go get a fancy one. But I don't love to use my fancy brushes on wood, just because the grain eats it up. Okay, second step, if you don't have the angle brush, go ahead and just take a makeup triangle and cut it into little pieces. You're gonna get it slightly damp, just slightly. Kind of do the same thing. I'm going to use red this time. So red. I feel like that's way too much. Okay. And all I'm going to do, and that's not showing, so I had it right the first time. All I'm going to do is erase it around the side. You could argue this is way easier, but I feel like the learning curve is a little steeper on the sponge versus the angle brush. You could do this in brown. The red kind of adds a cool little element, brings in that fall element you didn't have before. You just don't want a lot of paint. You don't want it super wet or super dry. You're just trying to find that happy medium place. Your happy place. And then, you know, edit your work as you go. Definitely gonna pick up a little bit more brown. I'm gonna do the next one with a sponge just so you can see the difference. The sponge versus the wet wipe technique. I'm gonna give you guys a couple different options and find out what works best for you. Definitely wanna give my pumpkin spice one more coat. I'm gonna come in with copper this time. I hardly have any on. Oh, it's beautiful. My favorite copper. Favorite. And yes, you guys have spoken. You want a list of my favorite paints, where to get them. I'm gonna help you out with that. We needed to get this baby born. Okay, so then you could put this together just like this, and you could be done. But I like to go ahead and I like to do just a little bit more because I'm a little extra. But let me know if you're a little extra with a heart. If you're checking this out, I'm gonna dismiss this because I have very little battery life. Super cute. So you're gonna have to decide which is cuter. Why is this smaller? This was my original size and I said, John, my people, we need a little bit bigger. This is for my biggie box, so I need the value of it to be larger, so we made it a little bit bigger. Okay, so let's just go ahead and bling this up just a bit. And you can do this with a liner brush, and you should probably do it with a liner brush. But those of you that have been watching me for a while know that liner brushes absolutely hate my guts. What do I mean by that? They have very, very long bristles. This is not a liner brush. It just takes one to go haywire, and then your nice line doesn't work. So what I like to do instead, water down a little paint or use fluid acrylic, spin your brush, do whatever you need to get a nice point. I double check it for water, add a little water there. And so what I like to do is just kind of raise. So the great thing about a liner brush is it does hold more paint. And one trick to not have to dip all the time, because you're always taking the paint from one side, is to spin. If you can kind of spin between your thumb and your finger while you're dragging, you can get a little bit more life out of that paint. But I like to brace myself, my arm, on a surface. That'll help me a little bit. And then you could argue that this isn't quite fluid enough. You should never have to go over the line. It should flow. So let me pull out my fluid acrylics. I only pull out this very expensive paint for like this type of work, little bit, because I can afford this penny-sized dot, right? So I'm not loving this paintbrush, but here we go. So that is a huge difference. Huge difference. And so I don't want to really matchy match. I don't want them on the same side, exactly the same. So I try to change them up just a little bit, because I know that I'm going to take my toothpicks, which, where are they? Right here. Yes, not just for dining anymore. I'm going to snip a piece off. You can use the back side of your paintbrush, sure. I'm going to dip and do some dots. Boom, boom. 1, 2, 3. You can pick a bigger paintbrush if you want. So why am I showing you this? Well, even if you're not in our subscription box for our Artsy Box or Artsy Chicks Clubhouse, you still might want to know how we ended up doing a lot of the designs that we've done. Going down. I am not showing my face today. I am not presentable. All that time in the emergency room yesterday. Oh, but worth it. I can hear the natives are up. Okay. And then inside my heart, I do like to give a little whoop-de-woo and a dot. So that paintbrush is way too big. Oh, here it is. So a little whoop-de-woo. So if you have too much, I'm gonna twirl, take the extra off, put a little little squiggle. Take my toothbrush. Oh, it's a toothpick. Put a little dot at the top, maybe a couple at the bottom. Cutesy it up. Super cutesy. Cutesy it up. You're going to be putting that there. So how did I get all that extra? I want extra, Kelly Sue. I love extra. So before, backing it on up, before you put these little cutesy marks, you would go in with your angle brush or a very, okay guys, if your angle brush looks like a troll head, don't use it. Find a better paintbrush. So I have some watered down paint, hardly anything's there, and I'm just gonna, oops, I picked up some white. It's okay, because if your paint is dry underneath there, you can just carefully clean it up. Just wipe it off. Don't spill, don't cry over spilt milk. Okay, so you're just gonna come in here and I'm just gonna lightly erase some designs, little curve lines. I like to do it before I do the decorating, the final touching, but I didn't this time, and that's okay. And it's gotta dry. And one thing I know is if it's looking kind of odd, it means you don't have enough strokes. You gotta make it work. Okay, and you can do it copper. You can see I have a little copper on there. Gotta do the copper. Gotta do it. This lovely copper. Do a little handiwork in the handle until you're happy. If you were happy a while ago, then just forget about it. And then finally, I'm gonna take my gold, water it down. I'm gonna put some little curve lines in the swirl, in the swizzle stick, and a couple old lines that are not gonna show up, guys, until it's dry. You have to trust me on that, until it's dry. So let's put it together. Hope you learned a couple things today. You learned about a little detailing, a little shading with both the sponge and an angle brush, if you're just joining. A little sponge work and an angle brush. I'm not gonna put this in place because these dots are still wet. You can glue them or tie them on. I tied a bow on. I'm really challenged at bow making, guys, but you can buy them pre-made. Kind of see. And then I do want to explain a little bit about our new stands. So you're going to get a couple stands. Some are bigger, and they have two pieces of pie, little pieces of pie. I glued them together. I glued this piece, I call it a U piece, at the bottom, and then I used glue dots to apply. I used 3 glue dots to apply this. And that's so when I'm done with this season, I can take it away for flat storage. Super cute. One of the pieces in our adult art box, here comes a puppy. Okay, similarly, okay, I think we're kind of trying to get to where everything is very standardized. If you end up getting these, people are, to me, they're self-explanatory, but a lot of people are saying, what do I do with it? You paint them, and you take one notched area and put it into the other, and that will hold something, anything. Give me something, people. It'll hold like our pumpkin spice, super cute, very nice. The last one is a stick. I don't think I have it with me, but it's very similar, where you glue the back on, and then you use glue dots or glue for the sticky thingy. Okay, so I pulled mine off so it lay flat for painting, and I have no clue what I did with it, which sounds pretty normal, pretty standard. So if you're getting the biggie box, here are our projects. So everybody, they should be on their way or delivered or on their way, because we had some add-ons. And then, where's my big one? Hello. It's just that kind of day, guys. All right. Oh, it's standing up. That's right. So everyone gets these 2 projects for the $45, including shipping, and the biggie box gets the final project. We do have just a couple left over because I made extra this month because I knew some of you guys would be like, oh my gosh, it's so gorgeous. And we have a couple left over, but they are first come, first serve. So if you want one, you hit the website, and I promise you, you will love being in our membership. So hopefully you learned a lot today about how to shade and detail some of your work. And I hope to see you next time. So have a good weekend. Bye, guys.